Hey gang, Sports Underground coming back at you with a new segment called Bold Predictions. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Brand new Sports Underground coming at you next. So Mike, here we are with our newly debuted segment, Bold Predictions. We've been trying to do this for about 3 months now, and we finally got the technology right to do it. So, are you excited?
I am excited for our Bold Predictions 2012 segment. You're right, we had to actually rewrite the questions on these. They got outdated.
Yeah, yeah.
Bold Predictions, a daring name, daring title for daring show.
You know, as long as it's been, we did not change the title. We liked it so much the first time that we have stuck with that. So, first question comes from the NFC North. Who wins the NFC North this year, Mike?
Well, I know who doesn't, but the momentum the Lions carried into last year, they might be able to come out of this draft with enough players, enough confidence, and add another year to those type of players. I think you might see a changing of the guard. The Lions might actually pull it off. Don't sleep on the Bears, because I think the Bears are improving themselves. The Packers are always good, but the Packers aren't that good.
You stole my thunder with the Lions. They're kind of going to be my breakout team of the year. Big surprise that I see them up and coming. But, I think flip the three-headed coin, and you can make scenarios where either of those three teams, the Bears, the Packers, or the Lions, do win it. But if you tie me down and beat an answer out of me, I'm going with the Detroit Lions.
I think you're right.
The NFC North champions.
I think it's a long time coming. I think they're finally going to make it happen this year.
Yeah, I think the Packers' defense has too many holes, and we saw at the end of the year be exposed a little bit. And I think a little bit of confidence with those Lions, as high-strung and young and fierce as they are, I think confidence goes a long way for them. I think they can win.
Right.
All right, NFL. Early prediction. Who wins the Super Bowl?
Who wins the Super Bowl? San Francisco looks really good. They're really well coached. What I said in the beginning, the quarterback play is very dire to a successful Super Bowl team. If I had to pick a Super Bowl winning team right now, you go with the safe picks. You go with New England. Mm-hmm. You go with Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. Maybe Baltimore, Texans sneak in there for the AFC. Mm-hmm. But I see everything happening out of San Francisco this year.
Once again, you stole my thunder. I don't see any team. If Alex Smith doesn't turn the ball over, and we saw this year in the playoffs, he played very, very well. He should have actually beaten the Giants if it wasn't for Williams' 2 fumbles that cost him the game. I think San Francisco is probably heads and shoulders better than anyone in the NFC right now.
I think you're right. I think they positioned themselves and built that team so that Alex Smith doesn't have to be that good.
No, I think
they can win in
right.
other areas, whether it be special teams or defense or with their running play. I think they can beat teams that way. A weaker division, maybe an up-and-coming division, but as it sits right now, a weaker division. So they should honestly be able to get 6 wins out of that division.
Yeah, so maybe getting home field advantage throughout the playoffs with a number 1 seed and making everyone go through there. The defense is unbelievable. And just this really isn't part of the question, but how does Peyton Manning not want to go to that team?
There had to be something underlying there. There had to be something wrong there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We talked about that before. The teams Peyton Manning should land on. Mm-hmm. Denver was not on our radar, and that one I think it shocked the whole NFL.
I think so too. And you talk about who wins the Super Bowl. Who goes to the Super Bowl out of the AFC? It's not the Broncos.
No, it's not.
The fit just isn't there for me.
I mean, there's probably a half dozen teams in the AFC that can win or go to the Super Bowl. I just named most of them. Mm-hmm. As far as from the NFC, if the Eagles rebound this year, are they? I don't even think they're in San Francisco's caliber, though.
I don't think so either. I think the Lions and the Packers are maybe the only 2 teams that could contend with the 49ers as we sit here today.
As we sit here today, of course, yes, before the draft and before all
injuries and everything takes place
and releases. But again, I was going to parlay this in from the last question, who wins the NFC North? Can the Lions get past the 49ers? Are they as good as the 49ers?
Well, they couldn't beat them in San Francisco, but you get them on their fast track, maybe they have a shot.
I like it because it's an interesting matchup.
Oh yeah,
I think
the immovable object and the irresistible force. Yeah,
I think they match up real well. I think home field advantage will play huge in a game like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if it comes down to quarterback play, Matt Stafford, if he's healthy,
mm-hmm.
mind you, I think he'll outplay Alex Smith.
I think you're right. One more point on this: super surprise Super Bowl pick. One team that you don't really see coming from the end of last year that maybe has an outside shot to get to the Super Bowl.
Boy, that's tough sitting here today.
I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills. Just because they signed Mario Williams. Now, we haven't had a draft yet, but they re-signed Steve Johnson. I kind of like the momentum the Bills have, and they started off last year pretty quick. And I'm not saying they're going to get there, but that's my outside.
Well, if you change the question to super surprise playoff team, I could see the Bills. If you want to keep it with a super surprise Super Bowl team, I'll say the Bengals then.
Okay.
I'll say the Bengals from the AFC. From the NFC,
Tampa Bay.
The first thing that popped in my head was Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I said Tampa Bay. Is Detroit a super surprise Super Bowl team anymore?
No, because they were in the playoffs last year. I don't think anyone that made the playoffs can be a surprise.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
All right. Moving on here, NFL question again. Who will be the surprise player in the NFL this year?
Hard to say that again with so many players changing teams. Could it be Randy Moss?
Once again, you have stolen my thunder. We really do think way too much alike to be doing this show sometimes. I think if Randy Moss is motivated and he knows he has one last shot at getting to the Super Bowl, you could see 17 touchdown Randy Moss come back, and NFC, look out if that's the guy you're getting.
Yep, I agree. He will be, not only could he be a surprise player in the NFL, he could be MVP. You never know.
Right.
You never know. It's a tough league to judge. But it's hard to pick somebody maybe on defense that's going to come out of nowhere, or somebody that's unrecognized that's going to be a surprise.
Janoris Jenkins would maybe be my just top of the head, because that's a guy that's got number one pick talent, but may go in the second or third round.
Right. To be a surprise player in the NFL, they may not even be on an NFL roster as we sit here today right now. How about a guy like Julio Jones?
Yeah, Atlanta needs a little more from him.
Yep.
If they're going to take the next step.
They do, but I think he's poised to explode. I think he could be. Another guy would be Des Bryant, or another receiver.
Yeah, their receiving core needs to take a step forward. If Dallas wants to get anywhere, they need to stay on the field and need more production from him and Miles Austin. Both.
How about Josh Freeman?
Yeah, but he's not really a surprise. I think the team, the moves they've made around him are going to lead him to be a better player. But I guess maybe a little surprised, I guess you could say that.
But he's not a household name.
No, he's not no, you're absolutely right about that.
So in order to make him a household name, he'd have to be a surprise player, I think. That's what I'm saying.
No, you're probably right about that. Or what if Andy Dalton gets the Bengals to the Super Bowl? Is he a surprise player?
Absolutely.
That same kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if you had a time to pick one person, Randy Moss, I think he's in for a big year.
I agree.
All right, keep it a little more local here. Minnesota Vikings. Will Adrian Peterson be back to help the Vikings at all in 2012? And by at all, I mean, will he be relevant enough on the football field to make a difference in any game this year?
Well, from what it sounds like, his rehab is going well, and he himself is thinking he's going to be ready for training camp and ready for the first game of the year, whether it be sits out, maybe abbreviates his training camp, maybe abbreviates some preseason, who knows, but will he help the Vikings at all in 2012? Then you go back to the Vikings question. Are they beyond help?
I'm just talking about...
is he going to play?
Yeah, is he a 1,200-yard regular Adrian Peterson?
Probably not.
Right.
Probably not. He's too valuable. He's too much to put on the field and risk. If you're smart, you don't ask him for it.
Okay, that's my point, yeah. If you're smart.
Right.
So that would have to believe Leslie Frazier knows what he's doing.
Right.
Which you and I both don't think he does. There's no point to rushing Adrian Peterson out there this year.
No.
There just is no point to it.
We may not win 3 games this year. 3-13 might be a stretch for us this year.
I think you're right.
I think it's that bad. I really do.
I think you're right. I think he's a very spot player. Now, there may be a game or two where he busts a couple runs, gets his 100-some yards, but I think for the big picture, Adrian Peterson really does minimal effort for the Vikings this year.
let's say, hypothetically, the Vikings and Adrian Peterson want to part ways via trade, something like that. Did this diminish Adrian Peterson's trade value?
Oh, absolutely. They are stuck with a contract they may not want to pay right now. Now, if he bounces back and becomes 90% of Adrian Peterson, still a great deal. But they signed him a little too early. And I know we always sit and complain all the time, oh my God, we're going to let him get away. But in the NFL, you almost have to wait till the very end because things like this do come up and bite you.
Yep.
So, more injuries, more teams, more Minnesota. The Timberwolves, will Ricky Rubio be the same player for the Wolves once he comes back from his knee injury?
Well, first of all, I want to say what a tragedy for the Timberwolves this year. A team that was going places and was exciting and fun to watch, and then all of a sudden have the enigma that is Ricky Rubio go down and taken away from you in an instant. And not only taken away from you, but taken away from you for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, when you watched the Wolves, you knew Rubio was important, but you didn't realize that 10 points a game and 9 assists and just the Rubio essence, I guess, was that important. I mean, he seriously, the heart and soul of that team left when Rubio got hurt.
You could actually see the place deflate.
You could.
You could see the place deflate. You could watch the interest in the Timberwolves because it was at an all-time high.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, prior to...
I think they were actually more interesting and more popular now than what they were when Garnett was big because it's been so long that I don't remember what it was like with Garnett anymore.
It was like a new toy, wasn't it?
It was.
It was like a new toy. And now we're stuck on kind of 25, 26 wins.
But they were clearly a 30-plus win team and probably in the playoffs.
They were going to get 30, and the way that was going, it kind of had that playoff feel. And we talked a little bit about the Timberwolves before. Maybe they were a team on pace, on track to maybe make some noise in the playoffs this year because they didn't know any better.
No, right. And the last time we actually got together on tape was the day after Rubio had gotten hurt. Or 2 days later, we watched that first game when they kind of fell apart. We talked about it maybe being an omen. I knew it wasn't going to be the same. I didn't think the bottom would fall quite this bad.
No, but it seemed like well, what's the point now? So they all just threw in the towel.
Right.
That seemed like what the feeling that the players have just by looking at them.
And more injuries too. You know, Beasley was hurt, Love got hurt, Rubio, Ridnour got hurt.
Yeah.
So
I think, like we said before, watch out for this team next year. But as far as the question goes, will Ricky Rubio be the same player for the Wolves as he was prior to the injury? What scares me is that he's so young that he might get gun-shy about getting injured again.
That could be true. I think he's going to be the same player because he's not a high flyer. He's not a jumper, a dunker, or whatever. He just kind of does his thing, and I think that tends to lead to him having confidence to let his knee do what he does. You know, he's not really, he doesn't have a killer crossover. You don't think about his big moves. He just gets people in the right position, and I don't know that his knee is going to affect it.
Well, when you think of Rubio, it's not... he's not the most athletic player on the court.
No.
You know, that's not his game.
So is it his quickness? Is this going to ruin his quickness? Is that what you're kind of saying? Maybe he's a half a step slower and he's not as exciting? I don't know.
Not necessarily. I'm just thinking he may not, in the back of his mind, he may be scared to get hurt again. That's what I'm worried about.
All right. So, something to watch for, but we all hope. I mean, Timberwolves fan or not, the Timberwolves were fun to watch with Rubio out there. So,
you know, they were like the Lions this year, just fun to watch. They're slinging the ball around.
You hope he comes back. You hope he's 95% of what he was because he was a treat to watch.
Well, yeah, but not only that, but for the sake of the NBA, that's a guy that helps the NBA sell its product.
Well, absolutely. He made a whole team relevant.
He made a whole team relevant. Maybe he makes,
another market, the Spanish market.
Does Spain, country Spain tune into Wolves games? Who knows? But.
Right. All right, Minnesota Twins. They're in the midst of another great start to a season. Will Ron Gardenhire be the Twins manager by the end of the year?
Part of me says yes, part of me says no. So that's a really bold prediction. I understand that.
Yeah, you really bolded on the bold.
I really did. There's no reason to keep him around. However, there's no reason to fire him either because I think regardless, we get Terry Francona in here. Is he going to turn the team around?
Yeah. Who do you get better than Gardy?
It's talent that we're missing.
Oh, it's pitching. It's all about pitching.
Yeah.
And until we sign someone, but if you lose again at the pace you did last year, there is change. There's going to be change. And the manager is usually the person who falls.
It has to come at the expense of somebody, and we're not in the luxury of getting rid of players and upgrading players and interchangeable parts. Our farm system's empty. We're not big in the free agent market. We're not going to make huge trades. So somebody's head's got to roll. So that makes sense why Gardenhire would not be here at the end of the year.
Well, the thing too is Tom Kelly managed through a lot of terrible seasons, but he had two World Series rings to his credit. Did he get a lot more leeway because of that, or is it just the Twins' way not to make change, and is Gardy here till he decides he doesn't want to be here anymore?
That's true too. It may be just another 10-year stretch till the Twins are relevant again. I don't think the Twins are going to be relevant until you see Joe Mauer and Justin Morneau long gone.
I think you're probably right, because we don't sign free agent pitching, and that's what we need.
Yep, we don't. We need to have somebody. This team is going to be drafting high, and again, we commented on the MLB draft before. You don't get the players all the time. You don't always sign them. You don't always get the player you think you're drafting. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
No, you're absolutely right.
So it's not like a draft where like, oh, great, the Twins have the number 2 draft.
Yeah, we're going to get a fireballer to come in here and throw 90 miles an hour and set the world on fire.
Right. The Twins player they're drafting this year is probably a prom right now.
Right.
And he won't be around for another 6 years.
Well, because the most important thing with the Twins is to be able to sign him. It isn't necessarily he's the best superstar. They want to make sure they get him signed.
Right. How many players want to go play for the Padres, the Pirates, the Twins, Toronto? Right. How many players want to go there? You know, it's just not that great of a baseball city.
No,
you know what I mean? So,
yeah. So if you had to put me on the fence on this one, I say Gardy's going to be here because the Twins don't make change. But if he wasn't, and we were losing like we did last year, it wouldn't be a huge surprise.
Another bold prediction.
Thank you. Minnesota Wild. Will Zach Parise be a Wild?
It's almost too good to be true. My history of knowing Minnesota sports, I have to say no. Simply because that's not what happens to me. Personally, being a Minnesota fan.
Or does he become a Wild and tear out his knee in the first week?
Because
that would be more likely to happen.
That would, yeah. I think we're talking a little more than a broken stick or something. Yeah, right. You're right. Does he become a Wild? I think we're going to be huge players in the Zach Parise sweepstakes.
I think Zach Parise's unborn kids know that the Wild want him.
Oh yes.
I mean, it's probably the worst kept secret in the history of hockey.
Well, absolutely. But you know, out of every single NHL team's going to want him, and probably 6 to 8, teams can afford him. We're actually one of those teams that can.
Oh, we can. We have plenty of money, but
from everything I read, he wants to go to a contending team.
Right.
Contending teams don't generally have the money to spend on someone like that because they've already got good players locked up and they spent their money on them, right?
No, you're absolutely right. So my thing here is, so Parise wants to go to a contender.
Are we the best of the worst?
Contender has to move someone. So maybe if we don't get Parise, maybe we can be a player for someone in a trade. Someone's got to unload cap. Maybe that's a way. But he is from here. His father still lives here. I think he would like to play here. And, it's kind of the Danny Heatley thing. There's something to be said for being the biggest fish in a little pond. I mean, instantly Zach Parise would be the most popular and best Wild ever just by putting on a jersey.
I agree. So, like I said, are we the best of the worst?
I think we're in a good position because he's from here. Now, if he was from Columbus, we have no shot in hell. You know what I'm saying? But since he's from here, I think we do have a shot. And you talk about what Rubio did for the Timberwolves. The Wild need this guy because they need their Ricky Rubio. Zach Parise's their answer.
And they need scoring. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Let me ask you this. Let's say the Wild do get Zach Parise. Is somebody on the Wild expendable that you may not think is expendable?
Yes, but no.
And I'm going to say a big name that I think...
You're going to say Setaguchi.
No.
You're going to say Koivu?
Yeah.
I don't see us getting rid of Koivu because it proved when he was out, we couldn't win.
Obviously, he signed, and I don't think we're getting rid of him, so he's locked away. But I think Parise would make you forget about Koivu really quick.
Or Parise will make you realize how good Koivu is because someone will actually put the puck in the back of the net.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think the Wild proved that they sort of revolve around Koivu for whatever reason because I know he's good, but he's not superstar good.
There's 21 goals and 37 assists.
But when he doesn't play, we can't win. And maybe it's because we are so untalented we do rely too much on one guy. But you get Parise in here, I think you'll realize there's a new Koivu. And then, of course, Suter is the other guy the Wild are trying to go after. If you could get a big defenseman and get Parise, that would be the home run of all home runs for us.
Yep. We need to shore up that defense. And I said it before, we need that lockdown, 27-minute-a-game defenseman that knows what is going on.
And hopefully these young kids coming, we've got, a little defense, a little offense. Granlund, we went through this 50 million times.
Do we still have Nick Leddy?
I believe we traded him for, let me think, Roy Barker?
Close. It was Cam Barker.
Oh, Cam Barker, that's right.
Yeah, and I think he's playing in Western Ontario League.
Yeah, I believe he was an Oiler all about 10 minutes before they jettisoned him and realized that he was nothing either. The Minnesota Vikings. Will Leslie Frazier finish the year as head coach? Can I say I hope not?
I don't think he does either. It sounds like some things are happening for the Vikings now. Here's a couple of scenarios. The Vikings get a stadium done in this area. Here, then they're going to look, they might turn their attention to running the team more, I hope, because it seems like all their energy and money and time is being spent on building a stadium, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So they kind of let the team fall to the wayside.
Let's hope it's not on building a team, because if their energy's been on building a team, we need some help.
Exactly. So Leslie Frazier, nice guy, speaks softly, carries a big stick supposedly, but it doesn't seem to be going well for him. I know it was a 1 year and it was a bad year, a talented, depleted team, some injuries racked up for him, but I don't think so. I think there's better options out there, especially in the NFL. There's only 32 jobs.
Well, when you realize that it was tied for the worst season in Vikings history, if you come back and start, well, you should win your first 2 games, Jacksonville and Indy, let's hope. Let's say you start 2-8, 2-9. How can you bring a guy back that might have a total of 5 or 6 wins?
No,
after 2
it's
years?
tough. It's tough. And it'll be tough for him to look in his boss's face and say, "I'm doing good things here."
Yeah, trust me, we're getting to where we need to be.
But the way it is now in the NFL, you're going to have to shell out some good money for a proven coach. And we try. I'm so sick of the Minnesota sports nickel and diming their way through everything. Go to the stadium deal, nickel and dime their way through that. We go to the head coach for the Wild, nickel and dime their way through that.
Yeah, Adelman for the Wolves being the only exception. And look what he did.
Okay, but
he actually looked like he could coach.
How long did it take for us to figure that out?
Oh, they're the only team that has right now.
Right.
Yeah.
The Vikings, nickel and dime with Childress and Frazier and Tice and
like I said,
goes on.
First guy with the application, first guy to get the job. It would be nice if they put as much effort into finding a coach as they have the stadium thing. And I know we've talked about this ad nauseum, but I have no confidence in the GM, the coach, the owner, the whole organization. So someone please prove me wrong.
No.
Leslie Frazier, we lost 5 or 6 games by less than 7 points last year. Shouldn't a good coach be able to do something to win a few of those games?
You'd think so. And with the team, it's in such a rocky ground, such turmoil right now, to have one presence, to have a head coach that's steadfast and you believe in him and you know he's good and you know he's going to do some positive things for the team would be monumental, I think, for this team as far as the rebuilding process goes, would it not? You
mean like Mike Tomlin?
Sure. Yeah. Or any number of the other Viking coaches we let go.
Yeah, you're absolutely right that, and I don't want to hear, we can see that the stadium issue has sort of taken their focus off. I don't want to hear from the head coach saying, well, I would have been a lot better head coach if all this other stuff wasn't going on. Your job is to coach the team, not to build the stadium, correct?
That's right.
So I don't see him here.
But again, we go back to the same thing. If you're 3-13 with Leslie Frazier, you're going to be 5-11 with somebody else.
But the NFL, I just think that they don't put up with. It's not for long. NFL not for long league.
It's
so
not.
2 years of 3 wins, you've got to be done.
Right.
And with him, the general manager. There could be a bunch of people going out the door.
Right, but if we do not get a stadium, they're going to stick with Frazier, stick with the GM because they're not going to put money in the infrastructure.
Yeah, he probably seems like a Southern California guy. Who knows?
Right, they're not going to put money into it right now because
no stadium, no money. You're absolutely right.
Right, we're not going to put money into building you a good product. We're going to wait, move to LA, then we'll build it.
No, you're right.
Right?
No, absolutely. Another Twins question: will the Twins trade Justin Morneau at some point this year?
What do you get for him?
Well, if he can have a few more games like in the Bronx a couple days ago when he hit 2 home runs, if you can get to the middle of July or the trade deadline and he has 17, 18 home runs, you might be able to get some pitching for him because there's always a team, Yankees, Red Sox, Cardinals, Angels, name your team. Someone's looking for that big bat and they always overpay for middle of the road guys. At least he's got a track record of being good when he's on the field. And I think if he makes it till July, there's probably a good indication that he'll stay on the field this year.
Yeah, you're probably right. But who needs a DH type player? I'm thinking, does Tampa Bay maybe, if they're in the hunt?
Yeah, maybe. But I think he'll be playing a lot more first base come later in the year.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it seemed like the Marlins, maybe Tampa Bay. I'm thinking Florida for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
How about Texas?
Yeah, Texas could use a first baseman.
Maybe there. But other than that, you can't think of the classic teams like the you can't think of the Yankees, or you can't think of the Boston Red Sox. The Mets maybe. I don't think they're going to be relevant. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But let's say they're maybe on the outside looking in, and maybe they want to do something there.
Yeah.
The Mets, maybe Toronto.
Right. I don't see us trading him. We just don't do moves like this, and I don't know if the value's there. I think you're hoping that after this year, maybe next year, he comes back and he's back to his 35 home run, 120.
Yeah.
I mean, you're hoping you're buying low right now. You're hoping to sell high later.
I will say that I think if you're going to trade him now, though. Because it's going to be, if that ship is sinking, get off it now. You know what I mean? It's too bad because I love watching.
Yeah, one of my favorite Twins.
Absolutely, and it's too bad that we're sitting here. I'm not ripping the guy.
Right. No, because it's injuries. You can't rip a guy for the problems he's had.
It's almost I'm ripping the business.
It is.
The heartless business of it. I'm ripping.
No, you're absolutely right.
It is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Another Timberwolves question: will Kevin Love be next year's MVP?
Depends on how the concussion comes back. I don't think he's going to play the rest of the year. I think it depends on if Rubio comes back and how much excitement's built around this team. Because it's not the MVP. It doesn't go to the best player.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't go to necessarily the most valuable player. It doesn't necessarily go that way. I think Kevin Love is the most valuable player in the NBA. But it goes to the players that play in LA and play, in Miami.
Well, that's why I say next year, because you need to get yourself in the conversation before you can win it. He's in the conversation.
He is, yeah, he is.
Now, obviously, the Timberwolves have to make the playoffs. If they don't make the playoffs, no one gets any benefits from the season. But in the month of March, Kevin Love had the third highest scoring average in the last 5 years for a month of 31.8 points a game. That's crazy.
That's unbelievable.
From Kevin Love.
Unbelievable.
So if he keeps any kind of pace like that, and he scores 28, 29 points a game next year, plus his rebounding, which he is the best in the league, whether he finishes second, third, whatever, he is the best rebounder in the league. If he goes 28 or 29 and 15, how do you not give the guy the MVP if the Wolves make the playoffs?
That's tough. Yeah, I agree. If they do make the playoffs, I think he definitely is. But you're competing with the perennials. The
LeBrons, the Kobe's,
Durant.
Anyone who plays in New York. I know.
New York, Boston, whatever. You're playing against the top 5 teams that everybody names: Knicks, Boston, LA.
Well, if Durant gets his this year, that'll help Love's chances, because if Durant doesn't win this year, it goes another year of someone feels they owe it to him, and that's another thing that always comes into play. Is someone always gets owed one, But I think if Durant gets his this year, I think Love definitely is next year if he plays, like he did for about 2 months this year.
And it hinges on so much of the team's success.
No, it does.
Obviously, which is done because obviously the most valuable player makes your team better.
Right.
Obviously, but yeah, if this Timberwolves team kind of comes out of nowhere, because we're still not on the national radar necessarily after Rubio went down, you start getting generating some talk. Yeah, it very well could happen.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if you took him off the team, the Wolves would be awful. If you took Durant off the Thunder, at least they'd have Westbrook.
Right.
If you took LeBron off the Heat, at least they'd still have Dwayne Wade. I think you took Love off this team, and good Lord. I mean, well, look what's happened. You don't have to be a rocket
Kobe,
scientist,
too. Kobe's that good.
No, absolutely. It's supposed to be the NFL, but I guess not long for, so not for long league. Will Tim Tebow be the Jets starting quarterback by the end of the year?
I'm going to put an emphatic yes on this because I hate Sanchez that bad. He is not a good quarterback. They overpaid for him to draft him, and they're trying to get their value out of him, their money's worth out of that, I think, by keeping him in the starting spot. But I think Tebow might have a little bit of a rude awakening by the New York media, by the New York fans. Might be a little rougher on him than Denver was.
Yeah, I think Denver's a nice place to start. It was cute. No one bothers you out there. You were the Broncos. Who cared about you?
Now people care.
Everything you do, if you pray on the sideline instead of being in the offensive huddle, learning from Sanchez or trying to pay attention, they're going to rip you for it. No matter what he does. And let's say Tebow comes in and the miracle doesn't happen like it did last year in Denver. Doesn't quite lead him back. They're going to run him out of town in a hurry.
Yep. This move doesn't make sense to me.
It makes absolutely no sense.
The Jets acquiring a nice boy, the altar boy, to be on their team doesn't fit.
Is it to scare Sanchez? I mean, is Tim Tebow enough to scare any starting quarterback? Well, there's got to be a reason for it.
You know, I kind of hope the Vikings would have picked him up, and here's why. Because I think that guy alone would have enough personality, enough, a stamina to charisma to build a stadium here. Mm-hmm. That guy alone could build a stadium here. Well, just to have his presence here, because the NFL and sports in general is such a "what are you doing for me right now as we speak" business, and coming off a 3-13 team season, no one wants to build you a stadium. But if you got Tim Tebow and the media and the attention that comes with it, it builds a lot of momentum, and I bet you he could have got a stadium for us. And to give up a third-round draft pick for a new stadium this year is peanuts to pay.
Well, he is the most popular athlete in America. That's what the last poll said. So, yeah, he's got a lot of power to him.
Is he the second most powerful man in the NFL behind Goodell? Is he the most powerful?
I don't know, powerful. He's the most polarizing. I mean, he really is.
Right.
Everything Tebow does, he goes to a fundraiser and 3,000 people show him. People talk about
what makes me say, is he the second most powerful person in the NFL?
That's pretty crazy for a backup quarterback, but you might be right.
Who else is there? He's eclipsed
Tom Brady,
Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. I don't think they would get that many people.
Well, Eli Manning's got to be wondering what the hell he's doing wrong, because he wins the Super Bowl and he's still the third most talked about quarterback in New York.
How many times do we say Eli Manning can't win?
Yeah,
he just can't.
I know,
but he's a younger brother of Peyton Manning.
But Tim Tebow and Mark Sanchez are talked more about than you, and you just won your second Super Bowl and you beat the Patriots again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I heard a really bad rumor. I hope it was just a rumor that the Vikings actually inquired about Mark Sanchez after they traded for Tebow. Would you want that guy anywhere near this team?
No, absolutely not. I think he is the worst. I like our quarterback situation better than him.
That's saying something.
Believe it or not, it really is saying something. I like what I see in Ponder more than I see or have seen out of Sanchez.
Well, because I haven't seen Ponder regress yet. I've seen Sanchez get worse every year.
No, I agree. I want nothing to do with that guy. I think he's the worst starting quarterback in the NFL.
So we both agree Tim Tebow at some point will be the starting quarterback for the Jets this year.
Agreed. Put a stamp on it.
And then he may be benched again immediately, but
possibly. But
he'll get a shot.
Yeah, I don't think you'll see the clamoring for him like you did in Denver. I don't think everybody in Jets land is going to be wearing Tebow jerseys.
No, I don't think so either.
That's where I think it's going to be different for him, where it's going to be like he's going to be a little more critical and under the thumb a little more of the fans. And scrutinized.
But it takes Sanchez one game to screw up, and they will be calling for Tebow because they want the miracle.
Well, they did that in Denver too.
Yeah, but I mean, but Denver, they saw the results.
Yes.
New York fans, if they don't get the results, that's when they turn on them. That's when all goes haywire. So that is all we've got for bold predictions.
Does Chris Carter get in the Hall of Fame?
No, because it just isn't going to work out for him. Yeah, I'd like to think he would. He's got to get in there sometime, but I guess that's a question for another day. But if you guys liked bold predictions, send your questions in. We'll tackle whatever. We really don't care. We have an opinion on everything, whether it's right or wrong. So thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you soon right here on the Sports Underground.